So in the previous video we developed the volumes and details of the fish, and we did it in quite a free and experimental way using the sculpting tools. But in this video we need to take a more technical approach. So currently this model might look okay, but it's one that we would struggle to animate in texture, mainly due to the density of the mesh. So what we need to do is recreate the model with an efficient number of polygons, and we need to organize those polygons so the model will deform and animate in a believable way. Now Modo has a dedicated UI and a dedicated set of tools for doing this retopology work, and we can find these in the Topo tab. So currently the fish is being displayed with these dark blue polygons, and that's because it's the active foreground layer. When we recreate the fish, we're going to do it in a new layer. So go to the item list, go to add item and select mesh. And when we do that, the fish gets forced into the background and is displayed as normal. Now by default we have the work plane and the ground plane visible in the 3D viewport. But everything that we create from now on is going to be sticking to this background mesh. So the work plane and the ground plane are really irrelevant visually, they're just getting in the way. So I'm going to hit the O key, and under visibility I'm just going to decheck show work plane and show grid. So we'll start with the eye, and the eye's got quite an interesting shape around it because we have these kind of two termination points, or two shapes that kind of wrap around each other. So I'm going to run the pen tool, click once, twice, and then the third time creates the polygon, and then we want to continue clicking around the eye, and we need to create 12 polygons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've just evened up the size of all of those polygons, and the reason I picked 12 is because I always find the best way to define a circle is with 12 polygons. Okay, so now we can add to this. So I'm going to run the Topology Pen. So by default with the Topology Pen I can grab an element and slide it around the surface, but if I hold down Shift and grab an element, it'll duplicate it. So grab that edge, hold down Shift, move it, and it will create a new polygon. And likewise, if we hold down Shift and drag a point, it'll create a polygon that way. So let's continue to create polygons around here. Now you can see how this top eyelid terminates at this point. So what I'm going to do is bring a polygon out to there, bring another one out there, and now snap this point to that point, and just sit that polygon like that, and then continue around the top here, and then this point can snap to there, and then I'm going to drag this edge and snap it into place there, and then finally we can terminate this edge like that. So now we can carry on. We need a row that comes into the base of that eyelid, and comes all the way around the base of the bottom eyelid and all the way to there. So next we can define this eyebrow shape, and this needs to blend into this upper lip section. So I'm going to extend that edge, so this point is sitting inside that groove at the top of the upper lip, and then this point sits on top of that eyebrow ridge, and then I can bring these polygons up over the eyebrow. Then we can continue over the top of the eyebrow, and I'm going to start by just moving these points so we can kind of terminate the edges at this point. And that one come down Now you can see how I'm following this ridge line at the top of the head. So I'm just going to continue doing that by bringing a polygon into there, and then I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to extend this one out so that these points are sitting inside that ridge on the upper lip. And the nose can go down and also follow that ridge. And then this edge can come to the center line. So now if we bring these two polygons up to here, we've now got two polygons that we can continue along this ridge line. So these points can sit on the top of the ridge, and these points can sit at the bottom of the ridge. So the next thing to do is to make sense of this shape around the mouth. So I'm just going to extend this polygon around the shape, and that can start going back up there, and then here bring a row out like that, and then that can terminate into there, so then I can extend this back along this gill line. So this will be the edge of the gill, and then that can be the base of the gill. Now actually, when we're creating the gill, this actually needs to be a hole in the mesh, so we don't want to bring that edge all the way down. So then this can continue up the mouth. So now we can fill in the rest of this mouth. So if we come up here, hold down Shift and then use the right mouse button, we can extend the whole edge loop. So we'll do it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then we can just extend that to there, and that to there. Extend those, and then again these points need to follow that ridge in the middle. And then hold down Shift and the right mouse button, and then we can just bridge that. So before I tackle this gill, I just want to patch in the cheek. So I'm going to hold down Shift and the right mouse button, bring out that edge loop, and then snap that to there. And then we'll bring this up like that, and then bridge that. And this can go all the way up to there. So next we can tackle the gill. Now the trick with this is that when you get to one of these horns, you need to extend around it and then have at least one polygon between each one. And then we can just bridge that across like that. So again here, have one between the horn, and then we can bridge that across. So when you've done that, you might find that you need some more geometry in these two because they're quite big. So I'm going to change the mode to add loop, and we'll put an edge in there and also an edge in there. And then we can extend this all the way to the top, and this gill is open under here, but then it blends out into the gill below it at the top here. So to do that, we can just terminate it like that. So now we can fill this area in, but we have quite a lot of edges in here, so we need to find ways of terminating them. So we can start by doing that, and if we just move those points around, you can see how we've got that to terminate. And we can do the same here. Now I want this edge to join to that edge, but the problem is I've only got 6 edges on this side and I've got 7 edges on that side, so we need to add another edge in here. So I'm going to turn on edge slide, hold down my right mouse button, I'll just bring that down and do the same there and just move that up slightly, and I can go to add loop and place a new edge in there, then go back to the Topology Pen and we can continue making polygons. And I know that everything's going to join up. So the next thing to do is to define the outside edge of the next gill. So I've defined that with 2 rows of polygons, and I've used no specific number of polygons, it's just a rough estimate. We may need to add more or take some away later on. But now we need to come under the jaw and extend this edge along the center line and up around the jaw. And again, we need an edge in that groove. And then we can bring another edge along the mouth. So we need to make sure that we define the groove on the lower jaw correctly. So we need an edge on the top of the bulge at the top, and then another edge inside it. So there, another one running along that. Now when you get to this point, you can just terminate those edges with a polygon, and then we'll bring one more row through here. So if you look underneath the jaw, you can see we need more edges running through here. So I'm going to run edge slice, click on an edge, and click on another edge, and it creates a new edge running through that polygon. And then we need another one through here, so hold down shift, click on an edge and then another edge, and hold down shift and bring an edge through there. Go back to the Topology Pen, then you might need to shift these around a little bit, but then we can just join these together. So I've created another row running up here, but these polygons actually have to sit behind this gill. So I'm not going to fill in any more of this at this point, but I know that I've got 1, 2, 3 edges there that need to eventually join to 3 edges up here, because this is where the 2 gills will join. So I'm just going to extend this over once, twice, 3 times, and I'm going to join it to that edge, because from that point down this first gill is separated from the second gill. So the third gill needs to be attached to the top and the bottom of the second gill. So if we come over here and create a polygon there, that allows us to create two polygons, and they can run along the edge of the third gill. So then the third gill also needs to be separated from the main body of the fish. So this time we can create a row to there, and then we can split it and then bring that all the way around to the center line. So continue to extend this edge, and this will just help to define the base of the ridge. And then for the top of the head here, we can just extend it to the center line. So I've just increased the size of these polygons around that last gill. So if you come to the top of the fish, hold down Shift and the right mouse button, we'll extend that edge there, and then we'll bring this down so it runs along the top of this shoulder, and it's the shoulder for the dorsal fin. Then we can define the back of the shoulder. So we'll bring two edges down like that, and then fill the gap, and do the same over here. And in here we can bring it to the center line. Now if you need to put extra edges in, do so. For example, I've added this edge in there, and I'm also going to add another edge there. And the reason for that is I want to bring another row through there, and this will allow me to create a row that runs from one center line all the way to the other. So now we've got a continuous row of edges running from the top of the fish to the bottom, and we can simply extend that along the body. But we've still got this hole on the side of the gill, so let's start by defining these two horns. So with the pen tool, I'm going to create a row of polygons that follows the line of that horn, and if I hold down Shift, I can create another row that goes that way, and then if I run the Topology Pen now, I can extend a row that runs around that shape. So we need to do the same thing with the other one. So with this one we can start to join it. So I'm going to weld that edge, create a polygon across there, run edge slice, bring a new edge across, and with the Topology Pen I can just spread those edges out. I'll create a new polygon across there, and then if I create a new polygon from that point, I'm going to weld it to that point, because that horn actually has to sit above that geometry. So now we can bring this edge down, run edge slice again, and put another two edges in there. Topology Pen again. And then we can fill that area. So for this section we can bring a couple of polygons up. But again, this one has to sit above the surface. So to do that I'm going to have to add a couple more edges. So run add loop. I'm going to add a loop there. Hold down Shift and add a loop there. Go back to the Topology Pen. And now I can fill that. Fill that. Bring this one across to there. This one across to there. And you can see how that's sitting over there nicely. And then we can join these ones like that and that one. So now we just need to fill this gap. And the big problem we've got is we've only got a couple of edges over here by the eye. We've got loads of edges by the horn here, so we've got to think of ways of reducing them. And one way to do it is to create a shape like that. And then we can bring that down and join that together there. So up here we can block it in like this. So we've got the same number of edges on either side, but we've now got 4 edges at the bottom and 1 edge at the top. Well, if we do that, we've now got 2 edges at the bottom and 1 edge at the top. Well, we can definitely add another edge in here. So we're going to add loop, create a new edge in there, and then with the Topology Pen we can fill it. So with most of the head done, we can now look at the body. Now this is a much simpler shape and we can patch it very quickly. We need to start by splitting it into segments. So we'll start with this area of the back. Now in edge mode, I'm just going to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges. So we've got 6 edges running from the center line at the top to this ridge of the stomach. So if I run the pen tool and change type to lines, I'll come to this hump at the beginning of the tail here, and I'm going to create 6 edges or 7 points, and that'll come from the center line to the line of the stomach. I'm happy with that. Spacebar to drop the tool, then hold down Shift and select the same number of edges on that side. Then we can run the bridge tool, click in the viewport, and then if we increase the segments to 9, you see it patches between those two edges, those two edge selections, and also constrains everything to the background. And if we change the mode to curve, you can see how it follows the line of the stomach. So next we can do the stomach. So run the Topology Pen, and we need to define the line of the stomach. So bring this down. Bring that all the way to the center line. Let's just even that up. And then we need to do the same on the other side of the line that defines that stomach. So when you've done that, we can now bridge this area. So in edge mode, I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on that side, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on that side. Run the bridge tool. Now I've set the mode on linear, click in the viewport, and in this case 9 segments is perfect because it means I can join this area together perfectly. You may need to change that depending on your mesh. So when you're happy with that, drop a tool, go to the Topology Pen, hold down Shift and the right mouse button and just bridge that gap. Now when it comes to the tail, if you remember, we spent quite a bit of time making sure it was right, and the reason for that is there's absolutely no reason to remodel it. We can simply use the geometry that we've already got. So if we go to the other layer And we just need to select all the polygons on one side of this tail. So when you've done that, Control C to copy, go back to this layer and Control V to paste. Then double click on the tail and hit Shift Tab, and you'll get this warning message saying that there are displacements on the mesh. Do you really want to convert? Well, we do. So click yes, and now we have the tail done. So now we just have to bridge between these two sections. So we'll start with the top. So I'll select two there and two there. Run the bridge tool. I'm going to have the segments on 6 and click in the viewport. Now if you find that it ends up doing that, then you need to adjust the twist amount. In this case 2 will fix it. So drop the tool, select 2 there, hold down shift and select 2 there. Again, run the bridge tool, click in the viewport. If I come back to the top again, I'm going to select that edge, and again run the bridge tool. And then if I run the Topology Pen, I can weld these together to about there. And that is now going to allow me to terminate this edge. So if I hold down shift, I can bring those down, then hold down shift and the right mouse button, and then we can bridge that gap. Now for this section we have 7 edges on the left and 3 edges on the right. Ideally we need 5 on here to enable us to do the same thing as we did on the top. So with the Topology Pen, I'm just going to weld that point and also that point. That means we now have 5 on the left, 3 on the right, and we have 5 on both the top and the bottom. So now we can bring this row through, take this to about there, and then that can come up to there. Then we can bring this one up. That can snap to that. We can fill that there, and then just like the top, bring those down, then hold down shift and the right mouse button and bridge it. So the final thing I want to do is finish this gill. So I'm going to start by lasso selecting, just by holding down my right mouse button, all of the polygons that make up the first gill, and then I'm going to hit H to hide them. Then with the Topology Pen, I'm going to finish this off. So create 2 polygons in there, and then I'll just fill this area with 3 rows of polygons. So when you finish that, it will obviously have constrained to the first gill. So we just need to hide the background mesh. We'll come over to the Model tab, and we just need to bring these points down so that these polygons will eventually sit underneath that first gill. I'm just using the Topology Pen here. Of course, because there's nothing in the background, it's not snapping to it. So when you finish that, hit U to unhide, and you can see how those polygons are sitting nicely underneath that gill. So that's the basic topology in place. We've still got a long way to go before we have a final model. But by laying down the polygons in this very controlled and logical way, right, following the forms and details of the design, you naturally obtain a mesh that's efficient and also one that will deform believably.